All right. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Nadia. We'll get things kicked off here. So welcome everyone. Again, this is part of Gooten's holiday webinar series. Today's topic is around what quality management looks like here at Gooten. And we're fortunate to have Nadia join us today, who runs that portion of our operations team. And so Nadia is going to be talking with us a little bit about the behind the scenes of what happens at Gooten in terms of operations, how we strive to maintain quality at the right pricing for our customers and the products that we bring to market, and sort of the rigors of what happens behind the scenes. So this is, again, part of our holiday webinar series. Next week, next Wednesday, as we do every week, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, we'll have our next webinar. And next week's topic is actually, we're going to be joined by one of our manufacturers called Circle Graphics. And so they'll actually share with us a further in-depth view of the manufacturing processes that we go through here at Gooten to bring the products that you and your customers are ordering to life. But starting today, we're going to go through and get things rolling here with Nadia. So Nadia, welcome again, and glad to have you. I know you guys are so busy, so I really appreciate your time. I know holiday season is upon us, so I really appreciate you taking an hour here today to talk with us and educate our partners a little bit on what's happening in your world of operations within Gooten. So welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark, for having me, and thank you to everyone as well for joining this session. As Mark mentioned, it is peak, so we're all preparing for that. So we really appreciate the time to talk to us today. So as Mark mentioned, my name is Nadia Burgess, and I'm the Director of Operations here at Gooten. I've been with the company for just over a year. Prior to Gooten, my experience spanned luxury, retail, and finance. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you about how we onboard new manufacturers, how we determine quality of potential manufacturers, but then also once that manufacturer is onboarded and live within our network, how we then manage quality standards. We very much take quality very seriously here at Gooten, and we consider ourselves to be an extension of our partners' businesses. So we want to make sure that your end customer has the best experience possible when working with the Gooten network. So I'd like to start with just a few stats about our manufacturing network. So we have just over 35 active manufacturers within our current network, constantly expanding that, and we'll sort of go into how we think about bringing on new manufacturers. Those manufacturers sometimes have multiple facilities. Many of them are global. So we have over 65 facilities within that network that we have the ability to fulfill from. Some of the KPIs that are really important to us and that we measure ourselves on and that we measure our manufacturer on are on-time shipping. So shipping within producing the product and shipping within the designated SLA or service level agreement. And then also our error-free rate. So making sure that once that product gets to you, it's exactly what you're looking for. And so right now, we're running in the high 90s, and we definitely always aim to surpass those goals and get to as close as perfect as possible. But in the on-demand space, things can happen. And so we'll sort of talk about how we manage that going forward. And a little bit about our products. We have 6 categories and about 136 or so products across those categories. And you can see that on our product catalog on our website, as well as on our admin and hub as well. So, and our top product categories, as I'm sure that you are aware, apparel and wall art, home decor are very popular for us. So we look to really expand and ensure quality for those products are at the best that they can be.
I'm sure you're going to get to this, Nadia, but how do we set those shipping times? Is that just, you're looking at millions of orders, and to be able to hit over 95% on-time shipping across, a million orders is pretty tremendous. So
Absolutely.
I mean,
So
that's an amazing statistic.
we are shipping a lot of orders. So our manufacturers are really working very hard to just ensure that they're producing within our SLA. And so typically, for the vast majority of our of our products, we have a set SLA, but there are certain products where it's a bit more time intensive to actually create that product. So for instance, some of our cut and sew products, crib sheets, swaddle blankets, those take a bit more time, and those are all one-off products that are produced when the order is submitted to our vendors. And so we do like to give a bit more time for those specific products. So we really ensure that our manufacturers are staying on top of those SLAs. We're following up constantly, making sure that they're aware of the number of orders that we have in production, and that each day they are producing and shipping the appropriate amount of orders in order to meet those SLAs.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing to, I mean, you know, I'm still relatively new here, just wow, almost 6 months in now, but it's always amazing that, I mean, the 136 product, I mean, that's product lines, because there's really like, there's actually all the different variants of color, size, shape, and so on. So, I mean, it gets into, I mean, you're managing thousands upon thousands of individual product SKUs when it really comes down to it, right?
Exactly. So we have probably at this point, you know, well over 20,000 individual SKUs. Each product has multiple SKUs depending on where artwork is placed. Kind of getting in a bit into the details of it, but each individual, but whenever an order is submitted to a vendor, they'll get that specific SKU, and that SKU will let the vendor know the blank that it should be printed on, where the artwork should be placed, the color and size, depending on the type of product as well. So we also have a team within my team that really focuses on product data and making sure that that data is accurate. And then our development team makes sure that the orders are submitted to our manufacturers accurately as well.
Got it. Great. Well, thanks. I'll let you continue along here.
Yeah. Absolutely. So how do we find manufacturers? So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about why we would be looking for a new manufacturer. There's several reasons, but I would say that the top two reasons are typically, one, if we're looking to increase our capacity for specific products. So this year, we saw a huge spike during Q2, during when COVID. We saw a lot of, across the entire e-commerce industry, saw a huge spike in terms of order volume. And so what we found is that we really needed to make sure that we were able to produce products within, again, as you mentioned, the appropriate SLA or shipping times that we commit to our customers. And so as a result of that, knowing or anticipating that this peak season in Q4 would also be equally, sort of high in terms of order volumes, we really wanted to make sure that we were able to meet those standards. And so what we did, my team is really focused on bringing on new manufacturers, sourcing those, and ensuring that they could meet our capacity needs. The other primary reason is when a partner will come to Gooten, typically to our sales team, our growth team, and request a new product addition that is not currently offered within our manufacturing network. And so should that opportunity be substantial enough and has the potential for longevity, we try to bring on products that we know are not sort of fads, but really core to our partner's product catalog. We will then procure that product at a new manufacturer. And so the three primary ways that we begin the conversation with manufacturers, the first is inbound requests. So a manufacturer will email us through hello@gooten.com, or they'll reach out to us on social media, and we get quite a few requests this way. Oftentimes it's for a product that we don't currently carry. And so what we'll then do is assess and make sure that it makes sense to bring this on, or we will kind of keep a Rolodex of manufacturers that we can potentially work with going forward should we want to bring on that product. The second way is we research manufacturers and contact them directly. As I mentioned, if we have a partner that is looking for a new product, or we're looking for to increase capacity, we will then reach out directly to manufacturers to add that additional coverage for product, or for new products as well. And then the third way, which is sort of been a bit more recent, but I think has been really interesting and helpful and successful for us, is really leveraging the networks of industry experts. So we will reach out to, or we have a network of experts that we work with, and these experts are people that have been within manufacturing for many, many years, and have their own network of manufacturers, facilities that they trust, and we will sort of go through the vetting process through them, but we already know that they've been sort of tried and true and come with the highest recommendation of this expert. And
that's great. It seems like I think it's really key to point out, like you and I were even talking earlier about it, but that as our partners want, our merchant partners want new products and so on. I mean, we're always, I think, open to suggestions and looking at things, but we do try to qualify that, like, to make it efficient for us to bring on a new product. We really have to look at what kind of forecasts, and if we can, I know Maddie talked about this, I think in her session even, it was like, if we can, group together 5 merchant partners that are all interested in the same product, and there's seemingly enough volume on a monthly basis there, then your team will go out and try to source the right merchant or manufacturer to deliver on those products, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are times even for a single merchant partner where they're just looking for a product that would potentially be exclusive to them. And there's, as you mentioned, enough of a forecast, or enough of an opportunity to warrant the process of procuring that product and bringing it on, and the work that goes into integrating with a new product, where we'll actually explore that. So yeah, we definitely are always kind of looking at new opportunities to grow and support our growth team, as well as our partners. So we're always looking to bring on new product or expand their ability to work with us.
That's great. Well, thanks for that. I know you were kind of teeing up the next slide then on what do you do when you find one of those manufacturers?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of go through a process, an entire sort of assessment and onboarding process, and that process is pretty thorough and can take several weeks to even a few months, depending on the product, depending on working through the actual technical integration, as well as finally going live with that manufacturer. So once we engage with a manufacturer via the 3 points that I mentioned earlier, we will have an introductory call. And that intro call is typically with myself, a manager on my team, someone that really sort of supports the integration process, and then the team at the manufacturer, so maybe someone on business development or the operations side of the business, to really understand their business. What are their production capabilities? We want to make sure that they can meet our printing standards, and the way that our technology, so the way that we pass through order information to a manufacturer, really understand the basics of their technology, the type of machines that they use. And so those are really sort of key things that will sort of make or break or a integration. And so we really make sure that we try to assess that from the onset, so that the relationship can move very, very smoothly going forward, and that we can submit orders. Once we have assessed these sort of key points in the pre-assessment, we also, which is really key, is that we order samples. We order the physical sample from the manufacturer, the potential manufacturer. We will submit to them our own artwork. And when we're doing this, we're really looking for a few key things. We want to make sure that if it's a product that we currently carry in our catalog, we want to make sure that it is a true redundancy, which is very much a very Gooten term, as I'm sure that you guys are all very familiar with, making sure that that product is exactly the same as what we carry somewhere else currently in our catalog. We also want to ensure the underlying the quality of the underlying blank. So the product itself, be it the t-shirt or the blanket, wanting to make sure that it is up to par and meets the standards of you guys, of our manufacturing merchant partners. And then we're looking at print quality. And print quality is obviously very key. It's very important. It's something that we are really focused on. We get feedback on from our end customers. And so we want to make sure that it meets the needs of our partners. And so when we're looking at print quality, we're looking to compare the image that's printed on the product to the image that was sent in the sample order. We're looking at the richness and vibrancy of the color and of the artwork itself. Any discoloration, fading, things like that, crispness of edges and lines within the artwork, if there are any. And then what's also something that's important that we look for that is not necessarily as obvious is really print size and placement of the artwork. And this is really key because we allow our partners to print anywhere within a designated print area. So typically on a t-shirt, it's a 15 by 19 space on the front or the back of the t-shirt. And so we need to make sure that the manufacturer can identify where that artwork is within that space and can print it to the right size and location that we've specified in the order itself.
A quick question, just because I'm super curious now. So let's say you order a bunch of samples and like the print quality isn't very good or what you would deem acceptable, then what happens? Like, do we just decide that that's not a good manufacturer, or do we give them multiple chances or to sort of cure or fix the issue, or how do you resolve that?
That's a very good question, and it's something that I've actually experienced. I think that, especially even with working with many of our industry experts that, again, have many years of experience in manufacturing, what we really try to encourage is that we need to make sure that the sample is right the first time. If we're giving many chances, then it is very difficult for us to truly gauge the operations of that particular or production quality of that particular manufacturer, because you don't often have that many chances to fulfill a real live order when we're actually sending it to you. So we want to make sure that you're getting it right on the first time. So there have been times where, if a manufacturer doesn't print the right artwork, chooses a different, artwork than what we had actually sent to them, or sends it to us on a different blank, we will not work with that manufacturer. We really try to hold our manufacturers to the highest standards possible, because our partners are also holding us to those standards as well.
Just one more quick question. When you're doing your assessment, and I know you mentioned, understand what kind of equipment they use, are there particular guidelines that you're looking for there as well, like certain either brands of equipment or types of equipment or capabilities of an piece of equipment that they use?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and it's something that we are really building out that expertise on our team right now. We definitely have relationships with some of the top printers within various industries, and so we know typically who the top printers are that can print our artwork to the standards that we specify and that our system requires, but also we know that it's going to be right typically the first time. We know that, for instance, with certain DTG or direct-to-garment printers, they have a process where they use fixation fluid and then they're printing artwork, and that their ink is top quality. So once we are at least familiar with the brand, we can trust that the artwork is going to be up to par.
Yeah, I guess that's how you end up getting the consistency at the kind of volume levels that we...
Exactly. And then we also understand what the capacity is of the machines, so we can determine how much that manufacturer can actually fulfill for us on an hourly or daily basis. So it is actually very helpful for us to be aware. But we are building out that expertise on our team, and I'm going to talk about the quality management team that we're building out as we speak. So as part of kind of continuing on with the sort of integration onboarding journey, we also send our manufacturers, potential manufacturers, an onboarding operations assessment survey document that is very thorough, several pages, and really involves various areas of understanding their business at a much more minute level. What we are really trying to understand there are, sort of what are all of the products that the manufacturer offers, what are the costs of those products. So we may not necessarily go live or bring on all of a manufacturer's entire product catalog, but at least we know what they have available to them, which is really key for when partners come to us and want to bring on new products. We also take the time within this document to assess their internal standard operating procedures. So for production, fulfillment, quality assurance, we really want to know that they have the appropriate procedures in place. And oftentimes these procedures will be very similar across the board for many manufacturers, even across different products or industries. But we really want to make sure that we are setting that expectation up front. So there's no gray area when we actually go live with that manufacturer. Also within this document, we're looking at shipping options, so making sure that they have standard expedited and overnight shipping options. And then what's also really important within this document is, in the survey, is SLAs. And so understanding what the SLA is by product, what are the manufacturer's support, customer support policies, so reprints, refunds, how do manufacturers deal with damaged goods, be it because of their own damage or due to a damage that happened in transit. We always want to make sure that we lay that out very clearly from the beginning so that there's no question when these issues arise. We will then review sort of in totality that package, the document.
Sorry, it just is amazing that you have to do this across 35 manufacturers or 40 manufacturers across 65 locations. I mean, to try to get the consistency across all that is...
Yes, it's critical. It's absolutely critical because, when we send out product and every, partner has sometimes different needs, we really want to make sure that there's consistency across the board and that there isn't any question around the kind of product that a customer is going to get once they order from Gooten. So really wanting to ensure that the process is as frictionless as possible. So in order to do that, we really try to put as much work in upfront when starting that relationship.
That's great, thanks.
Yeah, and then so once we have the samples, we have the onboarding docs, and we sort of review everything, we then make the decision as to whether or not we want to move forward or we ask questions. Typically, if we've given them the document, we will typically move forward, but there are certain instances where we decide that based on the technology or pricing, it may just not be a fit. And so once we decide to move forward, we will then kick off the technical integration. And so our CTO has built obviously a really amazing development team that really focuses on making this technical integration process as seamless and quick as possible. As I said, this process can take several weeks depending on the technology of the manufacturer, but we always try to make sure that we're as thorough as possible and we are able to submit orders properly. And so through that process, we also are submitting test orders. We will receive, again, physical samples in that process as well, but wanting to make sure that they're able to see the orders on their side and there's no question about that. And then, then we're live. We're sort of off to the races and we're sending live orders. We'll typically ramp up that relationship, not send too many orders to start with, but we will test it out. And then depending on the quality and ensuring that we don't have any complaints from that manufacturer, we will then move forward to ramp up the volumes that we send.
Hey, one more question. What's the realistic timeline to get through this? Is this like to get through the assessment, through the technical integration, like in the best case, is that like a 3-month process at a minimum?
I would say that it's at a minimum two months.
2 months.
And then there are times, where this is somewhat of a manual process and we are working to kind of add more technology around it so we can make this a bit more seamless. But yeah, my goal is that, going into next year, we can definitely expedite this. But right now we're at a 2 to 3 month range.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right, I'll let you keep going. Sorry.
Absolutely, no worries. So quality management.
I'm learning a ton today, so I love it.
Oh, that's
so,
good. So,
thanks.
I love your question. I love your question. So, as I mentioned, quality is very important here at Gooten, and we really try to implement proactive measures to address production issues up front. We obviously outsource our manufacturing, so we're not on the production floor, but we also recognize that partners, you guys are really expecting the best quality from the manufacturers that we choose to work with. And our model of being print on demand, which obviously, as you know, means that each item is really being printed and produced when it's being ordered, and so that in itself comes with many benefits from a business perspective. You're reducing your risk of holding inventory, as various other reasons why you do that. But at the same time, that then at times presents its own risk that there may be one-off cases where the order is not printed at our standards. The vast majority of orders and products or errors with products are caught before that product ever leaves the manufacturing facility, which is why we're able to maintain a 98% error-free rate. But at the same time, things happen, and so we want to make sure that we're putting the right controls in place, both to address it proactively as well as to address it reactively and monitor trends as well. So what are the primary things that we do? As I said, we try to set expectations early on during that onboarding process. And also from there, once that manufacturer is live and submitting real orders with us, we also visit manufacturer production facilities on a regular basis as well. It's obviously not so much during these times, but outside of times where we're able to actually visit, we definitely try to make those regular visits to the production facility to see production in action.
How have you made the shift then through COVID, where we haven't been able to travel and see some of these places? Have you been doing like Zoom calls with folks, or do you get how does it work now?
Absolutely, yeah. So we actually have ramped up our communication with our manufacturers. So we have much more regular touch bases with our manufacturers. And then yes, we do video calls to see the production floor, to see a new machine, to understand how the process works from beginning to end. And then also just making sure that we're documenting that if we do have an issue that's reported from a customer, we have a really clear understanding of where the problem might have occurred. So yeah, we're definitely hopefully going to be visiting manufacturers in the early part of next year, or whenever the country fully opens back up.
You're excited to get back out on the road.
I really enjoy it. I really like being on the manufacturing floor. It's actually a lot of fun to see the big machines. So I really like it. And we're expanding the team, so we'll be able to have a bit more coverage around the U.S. So we'll be able to tag team and visit manufacturers much more frequently.
Cool.
In terms of moving on, we monitor trends based on the feedback of you guys, of our partners. So we are in regular communication with our partner-facing teams, with Maddie's team, as well as Mark Ray on the customer support side. So any questions that come into those teams, we are aware, and we're tracking those both in real time to address one-off order issues. But then we're also looking at trends, and we're making sure that if we're seeing systemic issues, that we are addressing those with our manufacturers, but then also kind of thinking strategically about how we can improve the process going forward so that we don't have these issues. So that's hugely important for us, and has been beneficial in changing the way that we really manage our vendor relationships. As part of that data, we're also tracking error rates and then communicating that to our manufacturers. So any issues that we have, we're addressing internally, but then we're also communicating that back and letting manufacturers know sort of what is the breakdown of the issues that we're seeing, how can we address these very quickly, but then what are the controls that we can put in place on the production floor to ensure that we avoid these issues going forward.
Got it.
As I mentioned, we're also building out a quality management function within the operations team. So we're already currently managing quality, through the various points that I mentioned, but we're also building out that team to really focus solely on quality at our manufacturers. So, ensuring that our customers and our partners really have the best experience possible, and that, again, we fully understand the kind of equipment that they're using, setting SOPs and SLAs much more thoroughly, and having really clear communication around what the quality standards that are being maintained on the floor. As you mentioned, Mark, being really staying abreast of the latest news and technology within manufacturing and within the categories that we carry, we specialize in, is also really key as well. So maintaining relationships with the OEM manufacturers, the DTG printers, screen printing, things like that. We are always partnering with them and really staying in lockstep so that we know what the latest technology is, and then who are the manufacturers that are carrying these products.
Got it. Great. I know the next topic is on everyone's mind. All right, so Nadia, what's you and your team doing to get everyone ready for the holidays? I know it's sort of hard to say getting ready because the holidays seem to be already on us. I can't believe it's already November. And Black Friday is right around the corner, which I know will be a huge peak for a lot of our merchants and so on. But certainly leading up to that, I think people are probably already seeing that ramp up building. So what are we doing? How are we helping get ready for this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And to your point, we're definitely starting to see sales and volumes increase now as partners start to set promotions earlier and to prepare for any perceived slowdowns or production delays towards the end of the month around Black Friday. And we're seeing that really across the board in the retail and e-commerce business. So it is a very good idea, and that's something that I'm definitely encouraging, is making sure that we start as early as possible, and really set expectations and communicate. In terms of what we've done to prepare for holiday, we really have been preparing for holiday since Q2, since the peak that we saw in between March and May of this year. We knew that we would really need to really pick up on our operations preparedness going into the fall and winter peak season. So
it's like you had a dry run in March and April, right?
Absolutely.
for holiday.
It was a dry run that we couldn't even prepare for. We had no idea it was coming. So it was good in a sense that we were able to do that, but now we have a bit of time to to prepare for this holiday season. So we started out early with forecasting. So we have worked with I'm sure several partners on this call, as well as really many of our top partners, to understand where they were projecting their business. Sometimes that's a bit challenging, obviously much earlier in the year, not really knowing what's going to happen. None of us really know what's going to happen with peak, but at least kind of directionally understanding where you thought that your business were going to go. So then that way we could then move on and share that information with our manufacturers. What that allows them to do is to buy raw materials, and then also in many cases buy new equipment. To buy new equipment to really increase their own capacity, because they were also seeing the broader increase in volume across the board from many of their other customers. So forecasting was hugely helpful. And then from there, also capacity planning. So actually working with our manufacturers, once we gave them our forecast, to work with them to understand what is the actual capacity, how much can you allot to Gooten on a daily or weekly basis that we can expect to be produced and shipped during the peak season. And we've done this in the past, and we really refined this process. We have a great new model that we're working with that actually has been really helpful to understand also where we expect there to be overages or even shortages in certain places, and then for certain categories. And then from there, what we're able to do is take that information and make sort of tactical decisions. What additional product do we need? Do we need to bring on a new manufacturer if there's a real shortage? What do we need to do to really ensure that the holidays is working smoothly? And then from there, we also, as I mentioned, product redundancies and new vendors. So we brought on several new manufacturers this year since Q2 started to really ramp up and ensure that we had the capacity as well as the quality to meet peak demands. So that was really helpful, and we've already seen the benefits of that over the past few weeks since we've been working with these new manufacturers. During the holiday season, we already have daily vendor management, but what we're really looking to do is really structure that so that we have regular, daily, if not periodic, phone calls with our manufacturers on a regular basis where we're monitoring their KPIs, their performance and production, and then from there, making decisions on, what to do should a manufacturer not be performing. There might be delays, there might be a supply chain disruption for reasons outside of the manufacturer's doing. And so having those daily conversations is really going to be key to making sure that peak runs really smoothly.
Yeah, I know. I think one of the things I overheard or in one of your daily stand-ups on this was you guys kept talking about making sure that the manufacturers themselves have their own backup plan. So just as Gooten has a backup plan for this by, like you said, adding more redundancy and new vendors to support us, making sure that the vendors themselves have their own backup plans. Because I think I was talking with Andy, and he even made a comment like he asked that of one vendor, and they didn't even blink. They didn't even know what he was talking about. It sounded like.
Yeah. I was on that call. So and that can be a bit challenging. I do think with that one situation, they may have been a bit caught off guard by some of the questions and weren't aware that we were. But I definitely feel that our manufacturers are working very hard to really shore up their own operations, buying additional material, buying new equipment on the the cut and sew side of our business. Our manufacturers have brought on new laser cutters, which will increase their capacity by, from what I understand, 4-fold in a day in order to really to make sure that products are getting out on time. That is going to be really key. We want to make sure that everything gets there by Christmas. That's what everyone is looking to do. So we want to ensure that. And so it's a lot of it is the communication, but also being very transparent and working very closely with our manufacturers to let them know, hey, these are the issues that we've seen that our partners have reported into us. We need to make sure that you are addressing these specific issues. So if we saw issues during the COVID spike during Q2 or even holiday of 2019, we've addressed those individually with each of our manufacturers.
And I assume, like, if you see an influx, all of a sudden over a couple of days of complaints or issues from our merchants, that you're the vendor or the manufacturer is getting a phone call right away from you on what's going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we as I said, we work really closely with our partner-facing teams. So Mark and Maddie, and really just wanting to make sure that we understand the kind of feedback that's coming in, on a real-time basis. So if you have an issue, definitely create a ticket, report that into your account manager, and then from there, that will get into my team, and we will work directly with the manufacturer to address that issue, both on a one-off basis. So it might involve a reprint or providing a refund in some cases. But then we're also, as I said, sort of looking at these sort of macro issues. If we start to see several tickets where there's feedback about faded or print quality within a certain manufacturer, we will make sure that we're on the phone with the top executives, the operations and production team at that manufacturer to address that issue in real time. So a lot of times the unfortunate thing about customer feedback is that it happens as a sort of lagging indicator, right? It's already gone out, they've already received it, they've tried it on, and then they're kind of reporting it into us. As soon as you have an issue, definitely let us know, because we are actively managing these relationships with these vendors to address them.
Got it. Great.
Yeah.
I know you're probably your favorite topic of all topics, shipping.
Yes, yeah, shipping. So, shipping is a very, sort of, it's top of mind for everyone right now. I know that you had a webinar with Brian and Nate on my team
Yeah.
recently, so they've kind of gone through shipping. I won't belabor the point, but what I will say, in addition to all of the surcharges and the changes that we have been making, what we are doing internally is really kind of using analytics to ensure that we understand the performance of transit time around the country for all of our manufacturers. So if we're seeing any delays, both domestically as well as internationally, we are on top of that. We're monitoring that on a daily basis. Nate's really going to be sort of taking the lead on that, and making sure that we are making the right routing decisions to mitigate any of that risk. Obviously, we're not out there with USPS and the shipping carriers, but we are trying to make the proactive or as reactive as quickly the decisions that we need to, in order to sort of mitigate any impact that might have on our customers.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it's in talking enough with Nate, it's definitely like an hour by hour, day by day.
Absolutely.
He's on top of that thing to
Absolutely.
reroute things around as needed.
Absolutely. I mean, even with looking at orders that remain in that pre-ship mode, which can be so frustrating, right? Because you don't know exactly where it is and it hasn't shipped yet, it's been fulfilled. So looking at that and really making sure that we're following up with manufacturers, that they understand that we still see an order as remaining in this pre-ship status for longer than it should be, really sort of pushing them to move those things along so that we don't have the issues that we've seen in the past.
Well, so I know this is all of our holiday ops prep work. So now really diving into the weeds, right? Specifically over the next probably 2 to 3 weeks.
Right, exactly. So these are some of the issues that we will potentially see during the holiday season. And I think that it's important for us to highlight these issues because we want to be as transparent as possible and sort of set expectations around the fact that we've done a lot of work to prepare for the holidays. We've expanded our team. We've brought on some really great team members to really focus on various areas of the supply chain. But there are certain factors that are just going to happen during holidays, and things that we've seen thus far that we expect to continue over the next few weeks. The first really sort of obvious, kind of goes without saying, but peak season volume surges. So we are going to see really historic volumes that some of our manufacturers have probably never seen. And so while they have scaled their businesses, there may be times where there are production delays. We are actively monitoring this, staying on top of our manufacturers. But again, please expect that there may be some delays. We've worked very closely with Maddie and Mark, your team as well, on really devising a communication strategy so that we're actively pushing real-time information out to partners so that they know what our current production times are, what our current shipping times are, so that we're all sort of aware of what's happening. I think that's feedback that we've gotten in the past, and we just want to make sure that we're staying on top of that.
Thanks for calling that out. I'll just kind of chime in one layer on top of that, which is I think what we've done internally, collectively across all the teams, between Maddie's team and support and your team and Mark Ray's team and so on, was I think we have one point now where all the information is consolidated in one place. So you don't have to get one thing from Twitter and one thing from an email, one thing from one part of the website and admin and then our support center. So we've, I think, done a good job to try to consolidate all the information and we can update it in one place and direct everyone to one web page as part of our help desk, so that they can get all that information in a, as as it's rolling in basis.
Exactly, and really the other side of that too is just making sure that the information is consistent. Making sure that you're seeing the same information no matter where you look for production times within the Gooten sort of ecosystem. So those are really key. We've done a lot of work around that, and we really hope that's going to be helpful and beneficial to you as you manage your stores and your promotions. Inventory shortages and stockouts. This is going to be an issue. This is an issue currently, especially on the apparel side. This is an issue that is an industry-wide issue. So you are going to experience this if you especially work within or selling products in the apparel space during holiday. One of the things that I want to be really clear on, and I know that it's been communicated out, but we have developed a substitutions strategy and a substitutions list where we've identified multiple substitutions for our key models, basically every model that we carry. And so we will always make sure that our manufacturers, this has been shared with our manufacturers, so it is going to be consistent across the board. If there is a situation where that particular product goes out of stock, we will then move to option 1, option 2, option 3, and 4 if we have that. It is important to note that if one item goes out of stock, it is likely that it may be out of stock within multiple manufacturers and multiple distributors. So we will then have to move to the next substitution. Substitutions are somewhat standard within the apparel and DTG industry. So oftentimes that substitution may also start to deplete in stock as well within the industry. And so we will have to sort of move to the next substitution on that list. We will always make sure that it is a substitute that is on par and comparable in quality and size and price to the original item that was purchased. And you can refer to the knowledge base article that we put out about this. It's pretty in-depth and detailed around what the process is going to be, but I can guarantee that is going to be something that we face this holiday season. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. Shipping, as we talked about, as Brian and Nate mentioned on the previous webinar, there are going to be delays. We are all aware that there are going to be challenges with USPS, and then that has also led to constraints with some of the other shipping carriers. We expect that. We are communicating that. We will communicate transit times. They're obviously doing the best that they can, but we are also making sure that our customers are aware when there are transit time delays, and especially within specific geographic regions. Supply chain disruptions. This can happen at any time. There can be certain situations where a manufacturing facility closes down. Hopefully, we will not see that going into the holiday for any of the issues around COVID. However, our manufacturers have done an excellent job of making sure that they put controls in place so that they can reduce the likelihood of a widespread outbreak within their across their manufacturing and production staff. They are also putting their staff first and making sure that they're not being put in jeopardy or at harm in any way. They're staggering shifts, making sure that there's cleaning that's happening on a very regular basis on the hour in some cases, and really ensuring the safety of their staff, but then also the sort of mitigating the risk of having too much shutdown time so that orders can be fulfilled. So that is something that's really key, and manufacturers have been working on this since Q2, and we are definitely looking to kind of continue that going into the holiday season as well. And we hopefully, that will not be too much of an impact to you guys. That's really the plan, the hope there. Cut and sew product. So as I mentioned, we are seeing some delays within cut and sew. Our manufacturers have really developed a really great sort of bit more sort of hands-on process We are automating that process as well. We've automated the supply chain within that, within creating our cut and sew product. However, we do sometimes see some delays. It is a bit more of a manual process. So if you do have cut and sew product, we are really focusing on making sure that our manufacturers in that space are focused solely on creating those products and that they can meet our sort of set SLAs. But if you do have delays there, definitely let us know. But we will, again, try to communicate as much as possible the expected production and shipping times. So
Wow, that was a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I just saw a question about which products are cut and sew. So that would be crib sheets, swaddle blankets, changing pad covers, nursing covers, things like that. So just a few, nothing in the apparel space. So just a few products, and that's not a really large product category for us, but there are a few partners that do buy into that. So we just want to make sure that we're setting that expectation.
That's great. Nadia, one more question that had come up. I know we kind of talked about, all the prep work. One of the questions that was kind of, I'll try to paraphrase, was basically like, if customers are seeing, I guess either incorrect printing or wrong items being shipped to customers, things like that. I know we've seen that obviously, in the past, during the early days of COVID, and I know your team's proactively trying to address all that with all the new processes and SLAs and things like that. So, in theory, hopefully, a majority of these challenges are starting to go away and will go away as we continue. But if people are experiencing some of these problems, and so on through the holidays, what should they do? Just, report those into our support system? What's the best way for them to kind of ultimately make sure you're aware that some of these issues are occurring so that your team can address them?
Yeah, definitely. So, I would just make sure that you are communicating those issues into either your account manager or into our service desk. Wouldn't do both, just kind of pick a lane and report those depending on if you are a managed account. I definitely think that once they're reported there, they definitely will get to my team and to the person that is managing that relationship with that particular manufacturer. We will absolutely be following up with manufacturers, again, as I said, on a daily basis, reporting any issues that come into us. So we are just trust that we are actively communicating that to the production teams. One thing that I will say in terms of the prep work and making sure that this doesn't happen, we definitely experienced that a little bit during peak season last holiday. And what we found was that sometimes that happens with maybe a newer manufacturer. So what we've done is we've made sure that we set the expectations up front. We've brought on manufacturers with enough time to really vet through their processes and vet through how they produce orders. So we've given them enough time to understand the Gooten system, and now that we're starting to see peak volumes a little bit earlier, they're able to ramp up as opposed to having brought on a manufacturer right in the middle of peak and then expected them to really be able to manage very high volumes. So some of the things that our manufacturers are doing to prepare for this and to really mitigate against any misshipments or incorrect orders for various reasons is bringing on software where they're able to sort of see a picture at the end of the fulfillment of the artwork that was printed or submitted with the order, and then compare that to the actual item that's been produced. And that way they're able to always check and ensure that those two things match. They also are adding additional checks in their QA process to ensure that that we're making sure that these issues don't happen. They have barcoding systems, they have binning and pick package processes where they're really able to mitigate against this. This is not to say that these things won't ever happen, but we have definitely seen a decrease in the amount of orders that have gone out incorrectly. I think you're muted.
Oops, sorry. Tons of information here. It's pretty amazing. An hour has flown by here, Nadia. I think I could keep you here for a couple more hours talking more, but I know you're so busy just getting everything ready and dealing with the holiday peak season here. So I do appreciate you, again, taking the time today to spend an hour with us. You know, the sessions are recorded, so folks on the line, you can share this with colleagues and so on. You can find the rest of our webinars and any of the past ones up on Gooten.com, Gooten-holidays-webinars, and so on. Next week, we will actually be having the folks from Circle Graphics on with us, and we'll put the manufacturers on the hot seat, so to speak, to share what they're actually doing or what they say they're doing, and we'll make sure it matches with our expectations, I guess. But we're excited to have a little behind the scenes from Circle Graphics on their holiday prep work that's going in and their manufacturing processes with us. So Nadia, thank you again for spending the time with us. Folks on the line, thank you so much for joining in again. Please share this out with your friends, and we appreciate your business. And hopefully you have a great holiday season. And again, thank you so much for everyone tuning in today. So
thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.